Hello friends. I have my broken clapper over here. Time for a new clapper. Oh, look, and it got erased. Doggone it. All right, this is supposed to say Daily Art Adventure, number 915. Then it's supposed to say Portraits, Finishing Touches. Who needs a clapper anyway, huh? All right. So good morning to all of you. I've been quite missing for a week. I've been painting like a madman at a business establishment in the Research Triangle Park, not far from here, painting a mural. I put a post on the community page. Be that as it may, let's talk about the job at hand. I started this portrait. It's a brother and a sister, twin brother and sister, as a matter of fact. There's the sister, there's the brother, and I'm nearly finished. Really kind of down to some of the, at least on her, some of the very finishing touches, fun stuff. So what's fun? Fun is when the drawing is really all finished, and all I need to do is touch up. Now, looking for values, looking for, do I have, before I do that, I'm going to just do also some tiny tweaks in values. So, hello light blue. Hello Somya Sakshi Jogam. Thank you. I probably ruined your name. Sorry about that. I did my best. So I'm looking for any opportunity to push the values just a tiny bit. Push means push the darks slightly darker and push the light slightly lighter. Well, hello Wendy and Richard. And Richard, good to hear from you. Look forward to hanging out with you. I need to talk to you, by the way, real soon here about this fall. To start getting things squared away. So I'll give you, David and Rusty, a call. Let me show you my palette for those of you who are maybe not familiar with my, doesn't matter, but here's my glass palette. And there's a pile of Neo McGilp. Yes, that's the most, as I say, the most unfortunately named art product out there is Neo McGilp. It looks like a misprint, but it's not. That's what it's called. Yeah, so I'm just, right at the moment, I'm looking, pushing values, making the darks darker or the lights slightly lighter. I'm going to be doing just a tiny bit of both of those. And I'm starting by just pushing the darks a little bit. And some of this, don't ever paint with your fingers. I say that every time I paint with my fingers, of course. I'm certainly looking at the photograph, but I'm also giving myself permission to, I'm ready for the other side of this now. I'm also give myself permission to go a tiny bit beyond the photograph if I feel the need to do so. Yeah, good dark here on the leg. Because one of the perennial mistakes that beginner or intermediate portrait painters make is actually over exaggerating contrast. So do you understand what I'm doing right now is sort of a little bit dangerous, ill-advised perhaps? In other words, it's real easy to take what I'm doing right here and to take it too far. Because you have to watch out for actually pushing the values too far. Now, okay, having said that, I think when I look at student level portraiture, one of the most common mistakes is values that aren't pushed enough. So there you go. So I just contradicted myself. So I don't know which way to go. But either one is a mistake. So there you go. Just get it right. All right, I think, oh, no, a little bit more dark here in the top of her hair. Hair is something that it's very easy for me to miss and make mistakes because I don't care about hair. I just don't care that much. But when I ask other people to critique my portraits, like my wife, she'll often say something like, well, the hair doesn't look quite right. And go, oh, doggone it, that's right. Of course it doesn't. I wasn't even paying attention to the hair. So that's a weakness. All right, now, so all of that was a little bit of raw umber and a little bit of, hello, Vicky Christos, how sweet. And Stuart Maynard and Betty Funk, good to hear from you again. Hello, Uncle 60. North Carolina is doing great. And we're crawling out of our COVID hole. Hello, Stephen Stoll. And so I just did some neutral browns, which was made up of oxide red and raw umber. Now I'm going to turn this around again. Now I'm going to look at any place in the portrait, especially, and I've already done this a little bit before I started broadcasting, so I have a hunch. Any place where I need a tiny bit more blood, tiny bit more blush. So again, more Neil McGilp is the medium I'm using. And I've got a tiny, tiny bit of Scarlet Lake on my brushes. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Not tiny enough. Too much. Still too much. Hang on. I don't usually use a tissue for wiping off paint, but it was there, so I used it. All right, I saw a place up here. Never use your fingers. Okay, I should add that I don't have any cadmium or cobalt on my palette, so I really am freer to use my fingers than some of you might be. I don't have any toxic pigments. All right, yeah, that looks good. And here, once again, at this stage of the painting, I mean, I'm quite positive that all the lines, if you will, all the shapes are accurate. I'm going to make two almost infinitesimal changes that I've already determined. But for now, essentially the lines are in the right place, the shapes are in the right place. So I'm just playing with color and values, and once again, I am making myself free to push the color just ever so slightly. Again, once again, knowing that one of the perennial dangers in portraiture is pushing the color too far. But of course, one of the other perennial dangers is not pushing it far enough. So there you go. But especially on a child's portrait like this, I'd rather have, if I'm going to err on one side or the other, I'd rather have just a tiny, tiny bit too much pink. And I mean that. I mean, too much would be too much. It would be, and that would be bad. So do you hear my cautious language? But if I'm going to have either too much or too little, I'd rather err ever so slightly on the side of too much. And so right now I'm just pink, and it's looking really nice. I wish you guys could see it in person. People tell me all the time when they watch my broadcasts, and then when they see my painting in person, they go, "Oh my goodness, it's so much better in person." So I'm just going to ask you to take take that on faith, that that the paintings look better in person. Oh, definitely missing some pink in that ear. Good, I'm glad I did that. As you again, let me try to make it clear. This is the easiest step, the easiest stage. This is just like the cherry on top or the icing on the cake. And of course, it's the painting is dry, so it's very easy to manipulate. I can put stuff on and take stuff off. All right, now I'm going to move you guys in here as close as I can. You won't be able to see even what I'm doing, but I want you to kind of feel like you're seeing what I'm doing. So bear with me just a minute. I'm going to bring you in as close as I can. And I've already... Hello, Carla. Good to have you on board. Somya. It's okay. I butchered it, I know, but you're being nice. That's a good idea. Could I put a... Thank you, Carla. She is a beautiful child. I don't know, the tape is working for me, except for the noise that it makes, perhaps. Light blue, the tape is working fine. All right, tiny brush. Here we go. Oh, and I'm looking for my, believe it or not, my second pair of glasses. I failed to pull those up. I might have to do this without making a bold fashion statement. Glad I don't have any teenagers in the house. They would never get over it. All right, but I'm not finding it, so I'll just have to go without. Because I do actually literally sometimes for this kind of thing wear two pairs of glasses. Oh, here they are. Good, got them. All right, so just so you can get the full effect. Okay, here's the look. Here is the fashion statement. All right, that's enough of that. Crazy. Oh, let me clean these while I'm at it. I do have a microfiber cloth here. So these are just reading glasses, which in combination with my bifocals lets me see stuff really up close. All right, I'm going to find a nice little Winsor Newton Series 7. And I just bumped her. Are you okay? Yeah, pretty much. This eye looks a little dead, not quite as sparky, and it's not about the spark, the reflection. That's not it. It's the shape. I already know what I'm going to do there. And then her mouth doesn't look quite. Anyway, I've discovered what the problems are. So, and I discovered this before I started broadcasting. So this part, so to speak, I'm not doing in real time, if you will. I already figured out what each problem was. And this is a good time for a maul stick. What I'm going to do is raise the line of her top eyelash, her top eyelid. Oh, you know, 1/100th of an inch. I don't know how much. Probably not really 100th, but less than a 64th. I'm quite sure. So I'm mixing up quite a dark brown and putting on magnifying glasses, maul stick. And now I have to be careful not to make this edge too hard. I want to keep it kind of soft. It'd be real easy, you know, wearing magnifying glasses on my eyes and using a Winsor Newton Series 7 super fine, good quality sable brush. It would be so easy to accidentally insert a hard edge in here, and I don't want a hard edge. Now while I'm here, I'm also darkening her pupil just a tiny, tiny bit, and yet, no, other one's okay, I think. All right. Now, then the last thing I'm going to do is this corner of her smile. I have a little bit too much of her pink lip showing right there. So I'm going to raise up, I'm going to carve into that pink lip with a reddish brown to make this, this color too dark. I'm going to try not to make that mistake. In other words, we look at like this corner of her mouth and we think it's black. But if you paint it black or anything close to black, it will look horrible. It will look atrocious. So I've mixed up a dark reddish brown. And I'm just carving some, in a sense, opening up her mouth. Again, you know, a 64th or less of an inch. Really tiny. Now I've got a little bit too hard of an edge right there. So now that I've moved it 1/100th of an inch, now I'm going to actually blend it a little bit because it's just a little bit too hard. One of the easiest mistakes to make. Ask me how I know. Ask me, how do you know all these mistakes? It's easy. I've made them all. I have made them all. This is a different brush now, right now. Is my head right in your way? Can you even see it? I think you can. Okay. This would be real easy to get this too dark, too intense. I'm actually going to get a third clean brush, this time a bristle brush, just to clean up a little bit. I don't want that dark coming down quite that far. Oh, and now, once you know it, one thing leads to another. Now I've lost the sparkle, the reflection that's on her tongue. So picking up a little bit of white, Scarlet Lake, and some Neo McGilt. Oh, I didn't tell you, why am I using Neo McGilt? The reason, it's a medium slow dry. Now, that also means you could call it a medium fast dry. But throughout most of my painting process, early stages, I use, I just kicked you again, you okay? I use liquid, which is a fast dry. Okay, that little bit of reflection on her tongue now. I use fast dry underneath and slow dry on top. All right, I think that's okay. Yeah. Whew. That's nerve-wracking. All right, I'm gonna back you all up now, so I'm not kicking you all the time. And here we go. Now, a few coarser, bigger, fatter modifications. Getting rid of these ridiculous Winsor Newton Series 7, by the way, best brush ever invented by humankind. Winsor Newton Series 7. It's a watercolor brush. It's not really made for oil painting, but there you go. And I'm done with her face, I think. So I've just warmed, in the last several, since I started the broadcast, then first thing I did is I darkened a little bit of her shadows, just a little bit here and there. Then a little bit more blush pink on her hand. That really helped this hand, and a tiny bit on her face. Now the last thing I'm going to do is then the opposite end of the spectrum, if you will. Instead of darks, I'm going to do a little bit of highlights. So I am mixing up over here some yellows, some reds, and when I say yellow, by the way, it's like a Naples yellow in this case. I want to match this color right here, but I want it just one tick, whatever a tick is, I want it one tick lighter or brighter. Having a little bit of a time getting that color that I'm looking for, so bear with me just a minute here. I'm going to use just enough Neil McGilt, by the way, to slow down the drying process. So that means this painting won't be, this is too bright, I think. Ooh, by a mile. I knew it was, but I didn't realize how much too bright it was. Let's darken it with some oxide red, which is a brown, of course. Don't be confused by the name oxide red. It's a brown, very close to a burnt sienna. Okay, let's check this. Ooh, that's just about right. All right. So once again, I'm looking at the photograph quite a bit, and I want to just, even what I'm doing here is almost optional. Just adding, for this stage of the painting, this final lights called sparkle. A little bit of pop. And again, remember, I keep saying this, one of the great dangers in portrait is to over-exaggerate the contrast. Like right there. It was over-exaggerated for a second, but I fixed it. As maybe you can see, I'm not sure if you can see this much detail or not, but the detail in her hand, the edges in her hand are decidedly softer. Like her hand is slightly out of focus. And not in the photograph. In the photograph, her hand is perfectly in focus. And that's one of the, of course, weaknesses of photography, is it tends to flatten everything. So I am going the opposite direction by making her hand, and I painted it rather quickly. I was quite happy actually with the work that I did. I was able to capture that hand. That's a real, if I may, that's like a John Singer Sargent hand. It was rendered very fast, with fairly broad brush strokes, not too much detail. So I don't want to ruin it now by coming back and adding, hard edges to it now. Same thing on this arm and this hand. We want the viewers to see the hand, the arms, the hands, the arms, to see them, to believe them, to be convinced, oh yeah, good, they're rendered just fine. If they look analytically, they'll say, oh, wait a minute, this is a lot sharper than that. But most people won't even look with that degree of analysis. They'll just look and say, yep, there's a hand. And that's exactly what I want, because I want the viewer's eye to bounce back pretty quickly to the face. Same thing with the background, the lovely background of this painting. Both of these paintings, of course, they're taken at the beach. I'm assuming one of our beautiful North Carolina beaches. And I've rendered them quite accurately, but without overwork, without too many hard edges, without too much detail. Again, but accurate. Of course, I hope that my client agrees with my decisions. I think they will, about, you know, how carefully rendered to make the waves, the water, the sky, and so forth. But that's what I've decided. I love the reflection of the girl. I certainly wanted to capture it because it's a really charming little detail. All right, I think I'm done with that. Now, with the arms and the flesh colored, I have just one more thing I want to do, and that is, in some areas, the pink of her little gown is too thin. We're seeing through it in a way that does not. Normally I love seeing through paint, if you will, but in this case, it's having sort of a slightly dirty effect, and dirty effect on a little girl is not pleasant. Like, I'm seeing gray blue coming through here. And so the last thing I'm going to do to this painting is, yes, Richard, yes, this is oil. And Patricia, thank you, you're watching as well. Any questions over here on YouTube? I don't know why I appeared in your, I don't know why YouTube put me in your recommended. Veja? I'm going to assume it's a Veja. I don't know if you're still with us or not, but if you are, I hope you're enjoying it. All right, I have a pale pink here. Let's see if it's the right color. Nah, it's a little bit too pale. So once again, I just want to clean up this. Nope, too light still. I'm going to warm it up with some orange-ish stuff. There we go, there we go. That's the color I'm looking for. Beautiful photograph. I don't usually have the pleasure of painting from such a fine photograph. This, by the way, is one of my coronavirus portrait specials. When we all got slammed indoors several weeks ago, I decided to offer to do portraits, frankly, for a fraction of their normal rate. So I'm doing portraits for $395. Every once in a while I think about it. I think about this portrait hanging in somebody's home. This one is in South Carolina. I've been hanging in somebody's home for decades. And if they ever say, how much did you pay for that? Imagine the person saying $395. It's like, you know, if anybody knows anything about portraits, they should have a cow. I mean, I'm cheap as portrait, because I'm just an intermediate portrait painter. I am not a, you know, whatever. I'm a professional, but I'm not by any means a top drawer portrait painter. That's part of the reason why I do that. Anyway, but even my normal rate is four times 4 times this, but this is hard times, extreme times call for extreme measures. So if you would like me to do a portrait for you, it's $395 per person. Okay, I've had several people say, oh good, will you do me and my whole family for $395? The answer is, are you kidding? Are you kidding me? No, 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 no. $395 per person. There you go. Whew. Even that, again, that's obscenely cheap. Anyway, sorry. All right, I think I'm done. Yahoo. I'm liking the color of that better. Just did a little pink and, yep. It's already signed, so that one's all I have to do yet to this girl then is, oh wait, hang on just a second. All I have to do to her is varnish her in a couple days and ship her out. By the way, some of you might be wondering, what, varnish in a couple days? Some of you people who know better. The answer is yeah, Gamsol has come up with a kind of varnish that they say you can varnish. It's like a, anyway, where is it? It's over here somewhere. Yeah, Gamvar varnish. And you only have to wait for the painting to be dry to the touch. Can be applied when the thickest areas of your painting are dry and firm to the touch. So no longer waiting for 6 months, which is a great boon to me. All right, now let's move on to her brother. I've got a few more challenges with Gerhardt. This was Lily. It needs a little bit more work. Just a little bit more work. And let's see if we can get that taken care of. Hello, Kay Herring. And thank you, Sonia. All right, let me bring up the photos I have for this little guy. I haven't said anything about, I print these out in my regular inkjet printer, and then laminate them so that I can color match. So let me take this up first. Let's work on his face first. There's something, let me hold this here so you can see as close as you can. Now I've already double and triple checked all the drawing. Everything's in the right place. And there's something that makes him look, not quite as exuberant, I think, as he should. And I'm looking. I'm going to go ahead and make one real subtle change right now, because I'm sort of fishing on this one. I'm trying to figure out, why doesn't it look perfect? And once again, it's time for my 2 pairs of glasses. I'm going to lower his lower lip. Sorry, my head's right anyway. Sorry about that. Bear with me just a minute. Just a minute. All right. So I just with dark paint lowered the top of his lower lip. Yeah, that's a good call. Okay, I'm going to leave that. Now let's go back to some slightly larger brushes. And I'll tell you, I talk about him all the time. Carder with a D, Mark Carder. The trick of laminating the photo and then you can test color right on it. So I want you to know I've already done that. So technically all of my colors are correct, technically. But that's technique, or that's technique, and then there's other things. First of all, I'm going to look for, is there anything, his face feels ever so slightly too flat to me. And again, at this point, I'm going to trust my eye Even though I've already done, a bunch of color checking, by putting the dab of paint right on the laminate, right on the plastic. I've double and triple checked the color, and in spite of that, I feel like his face is a tiny bit too flat, and not sure why, but because the painting is dry, I have some freedom, because I can put paint on and wipe it off. So right now I've just got pure raw umber on my brushes, and some Neil McGilp again. So I'm just looking for, is there any place that I could darken ever so slightly, and if I do, then will his face look better? He's got all kinds of blue light hitting his face, of course, but it's not middle of the day because the sun's down here, so very warm light here, but blue light reflecting. Can I call it warm blue light? Reflecting from the sky and the sand. So you guys probably can't even see what I just did. Forgive me. I have to do it anyway. And I'm trying to get the glare. I think that's a slight improvement. I've just picked up a clean brush, completely dry clean brush, and I'm just smearing that around a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's better. Now, there's another thing, the crease. Here we go. This is a little, I feel like the crease over here to the left of his mouth. It actually can be moved ever so slightly. Again, 1/100th of an inch, we're talking. It can be moved to the left. And I better do this with my X-ray glasses on again. It's way too sharp, way too harsh, but I'll soften it here in a second. This is not by any means my preferred method for painting or painting a portrait. I would much rather be, of course, loose, like John Singer Sargent, but I am not John Singer Sargent yet. Boy, there's a voice of optimism, eh? I'm not dead yet, so there's still hope. It wasn't so much that the dark part of that crease needed to move to the left as it is that the light skin to the right of that crease needed to move to the left. So that's what I'm doing right now. I've got a very delicate light flesh color on my brush. Let's see how that looks. Oh, it looks not very good because it's too cool. Let me warm it up a little bit. Oh boy, I do not want to get into a major reworking of this guy's face. Okay, that's better. Now, I've got his smile line. I've got it coming down too far. That's good to see. It's always so good to see your mistakes. You know, when you finally see them, it's like, oh, there we go. So in this case, it was, I've got this smile line extending down too far, it fades out. That's way too light. I need to add some red to that. So that again, that smile crease, I've got it extending just a little bit too far down. So and now, once you know, I've got it extending up too far as well. When I repainted it a minute ago, I over accentuated it. This would be right here would be a classic example of how to do it wrong, of how to over accentuate the contrast, especially in a soft child's face. There we go. I think there we go. Whew. All right, I think. No sooner do I say all right than I go, wait a minute. Let me give his chin a little bit of secondary light, reflected light down here along the edge of his chin. Again, real danger is overdoing this. And I'm sorry, I know my head's right in your way. Bear with me just a minute. All right, so I just gave him a little bit more of an edge to his chin. Again, the kind of thing that would be so easy to overdo. Our eyes have a built-in exaggeratometer in them. Did you catch that word? An exaggeratometer. Our eyes are naturally given to exaggerating whatever it is we're focused on. That is the way our brain works. So whatever we're focused on tends to get bigger, tends to get more detailed, tends to get more sharp contrast, and so simply because we're focused on it. And that is a tendency you really have to guard against in portraiture, that you tamp down your exaggeratometer. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Now, and we're going to get to his jacket in a minute. His teeth, I was so careful not to make his teeth too white. Again, that would be a classic blunder. And again, how do I know about all these classic blunders? How do I know them? Because I've done them all. I have done them all, and then some still am doing them, no doubt. But there's room for his second tooth to be slightly lighter than it is. And now I've lost. And oh, this will drive somebody crazy. There we go. Whew. Yeah, I used a pencil. Can you believe? An oil pencil, if you will. Whew. Okay, I'm going to leave his face for now. I think he's good. But let's turn our attention to his jacket. Give me just a second to clean all these brushes. And I want to explain a little bit what I did, how I rendered his jacket. And I was disappointed that when I was doing this over a week ago. Now, do you understand, you guys, that I've been completely occupied this week painting a mural for a business establishment about 40 miles from my home. So I've been painting absolutely like a madman, 8 hours a day, and I would paint longer, but they closed the place up, so all the vendors have to leave by 5:30. Anyway, so I was painting all week. Let's see if we can restart our. So he's wearing suit. That's the name of this fabric. Again, typically, traditionally, just like this, traditionally light blue. And it's got little stripes in it. Here, let me pick it up now that I taped it down, because I want you to be. Can you see that? You see all the little, how close can we get? Not quite that close, huh? Better. Anyway, you know, most of you know what seersucker is. So it's blue and white stripes. So let me tell you how I did that. And Kay says that it had more umber in the correction. Oh, good. Thank you, Kay. I appreciate that encouragement. Veja. Veja. It's for Brazilian. It's a veja, right? I don't know. Anyway, forgive me. No, probably. I have a number of people in Brazil that watch me, so maybe that's why. YouTube thinks Brazilians want to watch me. All right, so I want to describe how I did the stripes in his suit. I painted his suit slightly darker than it should be, and then I let it dry. Then I did a light glaze, a light wash, if you will, a translucent wash over the blue, and then I scratched it with this little bit of a comb that I have cut and so forth. So that gave me those lines, and then, but it's not done yet now because I have lost all the, not all, but I've lost many of the shadows on his suit. So, but the stripes are dry. So now I have to mix, and I'm not even sure exactly what color it's going to be, but I have to mix up a medium blue. Nope, that's not right. And here's why it's nice to, this is why it's nice working on a dry painting, right? Because you can try different colors and wipe them off if they're not right. So let's try that again. Nope, still too much brown in that. That's good. I was afraid that I would end up with too much blue, so I'm not having that problem. I ended up adding too much raw umber to that blue. No problem. A little bit of phthalo and a little bit of ultramarine. And let's see if my brushes are still have enough of that raw umber in them to give me the color. Let's try somewhere else. Let's look at that. And it's okay with me if my blue is slightly more intense than the photograph. But no, not that much more intense. So there, so that's about right, right there. If I just put it on and wipe it off, I'm going to add a tiny bit of white to this, so I won't be painting with transparent anymore. Right now I'll be using slightly translucent. Let's try this now. Nope, but I'm okay. I added a little Naples yellow, which is opaque, of course. Then it was too yellow, so I've added some purple violet. Let's see how that looks. Ooh, now that's getting very close now. So all I have to do is go over the shadow parts again. And of course I had the shadows already painted in before I did the scratching with the comb. So I'm really just tracing over the shadow areas for a second time. So it's a little bit easier because the drawing has already been done. So when I'm finished, I'm hoping it will look exactly like a cute little seersucker suit. And I think I'm going to get that. Some of the shadows here on his jacket don't make a lot of sense to me. Visually, I can't interpret them. So I don't feel obligated to copy them perfectly. Because if the photograph doesn't make sense, why would you copy it? So I'm just simplifying a little bit, and I think that'll be okay. Here we go. There we go. I think that's looking good. I've been thinking a lot lately. I've been listening to a lot of science. I listen to a lot of Smarty Pants broadcasts when I'm not broadcasting with you guys. I don't typically listen to music. Typically, I have talking on it. One of my favorite subjects is science, quantum physics, mechanics, stuff like that. And is it the Heisenberg uncertainty principle? I forget. It's the uncertainty principle, anyway, in physics. And part of their mathematical formulas for whatever. Anyway, there ought to be, and I think there should be some, we need to come up with a parallel, tongue-in-cheek, of course, description for painting, for art. I'm not sure that makes any sense, but the principle is this. Okay, forget all the references to science. The principle is this. When in doubt, in a painting, when in doubt, when uncertain, err on the side of realism. Now, oh boy, that opens a whole can of worms. And that could really only be understood by those who follow me on a regular basis, because I'm usually saying what could be taken to be the very opposite of that. When in doubt, paint messy would fit Dan Nelson. Doesn't fit this, but you regulars know what I mean. But there is something very, I guess maybe, especially when you're doing a commission, especially when you're doing a portrait. When in doubt, err on the side of tight and realistic or accurate. Because I don't think any client will ever fault the artist for rendering a portrait too accurately. And I'm not even here, I'm not addressing the subject of flattery or making mild improvements. I don't want to even approach that subject, just generally speaking. And that's the way that is how I've landed on these two portraits. When in doubt, to the extent that I've had any uncertainties about, should I go this way or that way? In these in particular, I've gone toward realism, and that's what I mean. I don't think a client will say, you know what, I think you made it too accurate. You captured, that's not the problem, is it? The problem is when you haven't captured, when you fail to capture something. Anyway, so there's deep in there somewhere, there's some kind of wisdom. When in doubt, and I mean that when in doubt, when err on the side of realism. And I guess a corollary to that would be, especially in portraits, if you have to use photomechanical tricks, what I used to call cheating, then I decided that someone convinced me that I was damaging struggler painters by using that term. So now I call it photomechanical tricks. Use whatever tricks you need to get it right. All right, I think I've got adequate shadows. Now I'm going to come back and do just a little bit of light highlights close to where I just did those shadows along the edges of things, okay? And I think I'll be done with this painting. Of course, I've got about 2 days for both of these paintings, maybe 3, for them to dry completely again, because the Neil McGilp is, to me, it's a slow dry medium, but that's just because I'm typically use a very, very fast dry medium liquid. So to me, Neil McGilp is slow, even though I saw it somewhere rated as a medium fast dry. Whoa. So the point I was making was this painting will be hanging around my studio for a couple more days, and if I see changes that need to be made, of course, then I'm free to make them. And some of you might have heard me mention a few minutes ago, by the way, that when coronavirus started, I offered to do portraits for $350 each. They're now $395, by the way, which is just ridiculous. But guess what? I've done now 23 portraits. And what does that mean? That means I've gotten 23 portraits better than I would have. So I consider you guys are paying me, not much, but you're paying me to get better. And the good news is I am getting better, indeed. The only way to really make progress as an artist, you all know this, as anything, is to do it. And so there you go. I have never painted a seersucker suit before. So this experiment with a comb, I thought it would work, but I'm quite happy with the effect. I think it has worked, I think, very well without a sense of overwork. It doesn't feel overworked, I don't think. A little bit of sparkle on this. Thomas the Tank Engine is the toy. I'm quite positive is the toy, at least one of the Thomas Tank Engine family of toys. Cute touch.
Not necessarily. Like the peanut butter is not crucial.
All right. I haven't paid any attention to his legs here to date, so let's move up. Let's look at his legs. As I look at them now, I think, oh, wait. They need a little bit more values, range of values, a little bit more darkness in them. So raw umber, oxide red, and a medium Neil McGilp. So transparent to start out with. Let's just give that a try and see how that looks. Yes, legs look a little washed out. Whoops, that's too much, but maybe I can just spread it out and it'll be okay. A little bit more of an edge to that shadow. Be careful. Edges are dangerous, you know. Sharp edges are very dangerous and must be limited. You do not want too many sharp edges, especially as far away from the focus, as far away as feet, right? Keep them soft. So when I say dark edges, you really have to take that in with a grain of salt. You know, sharp compared to what? Because I don't really mean sharp edges. Now here's a funny thing. I need to fix the sand behind his leg up here. Let's see if I've got the right color. Ooh, good, pretty close. That was a good guess. Again, I'm sharpening an edge there under great protest. That needs some yellow ochre in it. Let's try that. Oh, now it's too light, so let's add some raw umber to that. I use a lot of raw umber, and that just started a couple years ago when I discovered that raw umber was a perfect dark color for diminishing or muting colors, dampening, knocking chroma down. I find raw umber is my favorite color for doing that. And for what it's worth, student grade raw umber actually. And soften up that edge, the edge that I just, that I made sharper, I'm making it softer again. Back and forth, back and forth. A balancing act. You betcha. Never paint with your fingers. Yeah, and his, indeed, his legs do need just a little bit of highlight on the flesh tone. So let's see. It's pretty close. A little bit stronger light. Painting very carefully with my left hand there. Usually my left hand is my mess up hand, but when the moment calls for it, my left hand actually can be pretty careful. Yours can too, by the way, more than you think. It feels awkward, but in my opinion, and again, you lefties turn this around to your right hand, but your non-dominant hand is actually capable of more precision than you think. It's just that it feels awkward. The feeling is more awkward than the reality, in my opinion. Your non-dominant hand is actually capable of more precision than you feel like. You feel like you're out of control, but you're really not. It's able to do. It's able to move more accurately than you think. Now, it's still, no, it can't do what your dominant hand can do. I'm not making that point really at all. But that's better than you think. That's what I'm saying. All right, nearly finished here. Oh, and this painting is not signed, so there we go. Maybe we'll do a, sure, we'll do a signature. It's been a while since I did my signature rant about signatures. So bear with me just a minute. Let me finish. I think that's okay. At least good enough for today. All right, let's talk about signatures for just a minute. It's been a while. I'm a real signature snob. So many people, so many early journey painters, and for that matter, so many professional painters who really should know better, do their signatures so poorly. Oh my goodness. All right, so I have basically one rule, if you will, for a signature. The rule is very simple. Doggone it, people should be able to read your name. Now, and let me get on my tirade a little bit, because I really feel like there's this absurd arrogance at work. I think a kind of an adolescent, are we zoomed in the right place? Kind of an adolescent foolishness so often. So it's like the mark of Zorro. No, I will be so famous. I will be so uber famous. I will be so famous that people around the world will recognize my mark. Well, that's just, that is just stupid. I mean, sure, it's going to happen for 1 out of 100 million people. That's going to be true for. But the rest of us mere mortals, you need to write your name so it's legible. Now, why do early journey painters, my name for whatever, student painters, whatever, why don't they do a good signature? Well, number one, because they don't know about Winsor Newton Series 7. Forget all the other crap, forget all the other brushes, don't experiment. I've already done all the experimentation for you. I can show you some of the brushes. Well, maybe I won't, maybe they're not in here. I can show you some. Here's I won't mention what brand it is. That won't do. There's some companies that try to give the Winsor Newton Series 7 a run for their money. They lose every time. Anyway, so you have to buy, this is a number 1. Okay? And then number 2, you have to practice. You have to determine what your signature, this is a marketing, advertising exercise. You need to decide. So decades ago, I decided what my art signature was going to look like. And when I became an oil painter, I had to sort of re-decide, okay, well, how do I do this in oils? That's what you're seeing. Let me give you a couple other things. Now, unless people call you by your initials, and again, I know I'm being highly opinionated, but doggone it, my opinion's right on this one. If your name is JP and everybody calls you JP, then by all means, sign your painting JP. But if everybody calls you James, don't sign your painting JP. Let me just be blunt and harsh so that you'll get the point. Initials indicate amateur, bush league, beginner, wannabe, lousy painter. Pick whichever one of those you want, okay? When you sign your painting with initials, it shows you're an amateur, beginner, you're ashamed of yourself, forgive you for living, I should leave the planet and leave oxygen for other people, which is all a horrible attitude. Sign the doggone painting with your name, not with initials. Again, unless your name is TW. If your name is TW, then feel free to sign your name. I don't mean your first name, I mean your name is TW Smith, okay? Then you sign it TW. But if your real name is Thomas, sign your name Thomas. The reason is real simple. You want people to know who did the painting. I walked into, oh, I've had so many experiences, I can't even tell you. One was a bank, big bank in my hometown of Raleigh. Walked in, had some really big paintings in their lobby. Frankly, they were not terribly good paintings. I'm sorry, I'm being something snob. But they were good enough, and I wanted to walk up and, you know, feel happy thoughts about the artist who had done these large paintings. But I walked up, and it was one of those Mark of Zorro type, utterly indiscernible scribbles. It made me mad. So anyway, none of you are ever going to do that, right? You buy a good brush. You figure out your signature. Like Walt Disney, you sit down and plan it out. It's like, that's my signature. You do it the same every time. Sit on your butt and do it till it's done. You understand? A signature doesn't just come out. Now this is completely, if you saw my signature from 10th grade, you would recognize the same person, even though it's refined and matured and so on. But you go, oh yeah, it's the same guy did that. Anyway, so you have to decide on your signature. That's like put on your graphic designer hat and say, how would my name look good? I'm not talking about doing some wild and crazy thing. No, it's related to how you sign your check. But you probably, like me, you know, people can't read my check signature. They must read this. It's the most important thing. In 6 months, people want to know who painted it. In 600 years, people want to know who painted it, right? So, especially if you're any good at all. Now, this is those of you who feel like, I'm not worthy to sign it. Oh, that is, oh, crap. Oh, get that attitude. Oh, bull. That attitude will keep you from being a good painting. So eliminate that stupid, negative, bad back talk, self-talk. Well, I'm just not very, you know, that's a problem. Go get counseling. Stop that. I'm using harsh language here. Stop that crap. That is crap. Eliminate it from your vocabulary. Oh, I'm just not very good, so I don't think I'll sign my paper. All right. I hope I'm mocking the heck out of somebody so that out of shame, you will never do that again. I told you this was a rant. Anyway, if you've never heard it before, and if you're a beginner painter, you need to hear it. Let's see who's light blue, $3.95. My supplies cost more than that. All right. Well, nobody's responding because they're afraid to say anything while I'm in rant mode. I have my rants. You all know, my regulars know this. Anyway, that's my signature. You can read it. It says Dan Nelson. Do you know what people call me? Dan Nelson. All right. I'm really a good guy most of the time, and I'm really in a good mood, but I hope that somebody needed to hear that today, and maybe that was you. All right. Thanks for watching.